Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. How's my friends over at yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today is baby's first cluster crochet hat. Now I filmed this years ago, but people say that I'm going way too quick on this tutorial and my hands were blocking the view. So I'm gonna try slowing down and also try to be conscious to get my hands out of the way. So I'm only gonna focus on the newborn size of 7 to 9 pounds. Metrically the other ones are not as popular, so this is the one that people tend to go to, so I'm gonna refilm this. US 7 is the size crochet hook, a 4.5 millimeter, and recommended yarn is Caron Simply Soft. So without further ado, we're gonna get started right away and we're gonna start at the very beginning, and let's begin now. This is a beginner level tutorial, so I'm going to pretend you don't know how to crochet. So if you need to fast forward, please do so. So here's the end of the yarn strand. The rest of it is leading to the ball, just like you have. And I want to create a slip knot to start. To do a slip knot, I'm going to just point my finger. So point your finger now and just take the yarn and up in the front of the finger, just coming up and rotate around like this. Okay, let's try again. So just in front, take the strand and wrap around twice. I'll show one more time. So point and around twice. Once you've done it, just take your other part of your hand and close it so that these two strands are in the palm of your hand. Now I want you to play a game of leapfrog now. I want you to take this strand and jump it over top of the other strand that's there, and then we're gonna take the new back strand, which will be this one, and jump it over so the frog is jumping up over top of the diving board. So watch how we do it. So we're just gonna take this strand and move it over top. Just pinch it down on top of your finger, and now grab the new back one and coming up, and the frog has just jumped over the diving board and he's gone too far, and that will create the slip knot. I'll show you one more time. So around, so the back of your hand, take the frog and jump it up over the top of the first one, so play leapfrog, and the other frog, which is the new back one, is gonna jump over, but he's gonna jump too far and go over top of the diving board. Now just take your hook and just slide it into the knot like so, and just pull on it. Don't pull too tight, but just enough that it's on the hook, and that's how you do your slip knot. Now if you're doing this from scratch, you wanna hold it into your hand. We have other tutorials on how to do this more slower, but you just put it on top of your hand like so. Put the strand so it goes between the pinky and this finger, and then just using your middle finger and your thumb, just hold the yarn. So just hold the knot itself, and then we're gonna begin. So there's other tutorials on how to do all that a lot more slower. So let's begin, and we're going to chain a total of 3. So rowboat, so just rock it so right up underneath and scoop it up and turn the hook over so it's upside down and pull through once and scoop again. This is called yarning over, and 2 and yarning over 3 like that. We're going to now begin the first round, going up all the way around. This chaining of 3 that you just did does not count as a stitch, so just keep that in mind as we're now going to progress to round number 1. In round number 1, we want to go around and make a round circle. So we're gonna go third chain from the hook. So if you just look at this and say 1, 2, 3, it's the first chain that you created. You're going to do a half double crochet 8 times. So you're just gonna scoop up the yarn, so yarning over and dive right into the third loop, or the third chain from the hook, which is the first one, and then just going in and then yarning over, pulling it through that stitch, and now you have 3 loops on your hook, yarning over, pulling it through all 3, and that was your first half double crochet. So we want to do that 7 more times. So yarn over into the same stitch or same chain, and then yarning over, pulling it through, and then pull through all 3. So that was 2. So yarning over into the same chain, pull through, and pull through all 3. That's number 3, and keep doing that. This is 4. This is 5. 6, 7, and 8, And once you get to 8, I need you to slip stitch it to the very first half double crochet, and if you're not sure you can just count it back from the hook. So see each one of these stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So go to the 8th one back and just going into that stitch and pull through and through, and that will conclude round number 1, and you have a round circle just like that. Let's move on to round number 2. I am going to be just cutting down this yarn that I started with so that it's out of my way. So you can do that too if you went over top of your strand. If not, just use a tapestry needle and just hide it in there if you want to. Let's move on to round number 2. Now round number 2 has what is 2 double crochets into each stitch, but then you have like a chain 1 that separates those. So let's begin. Right where we're sitting, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2 and 3, and in the same stitch where you did the join I want you to double crochet. So wrap the hook first and then going into the stitch, then yarning over, pulling it through, and instead of pulling through all 3 because that's a half double, you're going to yarn over and only pull through 2 loops, 1 and 2. So the chaining of 3 and the double crochet counts as 2 double crochet into the stitch, and now you're gonna move to the next one. So before you do that, you chain 1 first. That provides a bit of extra space, and then come to the next stitch. So just yarning over, going in to the stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2. And that was 1 double crochet of 2, and then yarning over, going in, pull through 2 and 2. So you're gonna do that in each one of the stitches. So then chain 1 before you start the next one. So going in, pull through, and then in, pull through, and then chain 1 after you get 2 done. And you're gonna do that all the way around, so there will be 8 groups of these 2 double crochets that are sharing the same stitch. So when you get all the way around, you want to make sure that you have only 8 groups of these 2. So there's 1 group, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I have 1 more left. I can see it. Make sure you chain 1 before you start the next group of 2 and put in your 2 double crochets. But before you finish off, remember that there's chain 1 that separates these things, so you have to chain 1 first and then slip stitch it to the top of the first chain 3 that you started with. And now let's begin round number 3. In round number 3, what we want to do is that we want to play between the 2 double crochet space there. So these are sharing the same one. We're gonna play in between there, and then we're gonna play in the space that is separating the 2 of these groupings of 2, and that's what we want to do. So before we begin, we need to slip stitch ourselves to the first space between the first 2 here. So they're sharing the same one, so just going in and yarning over, pulling it through and through. And what this done is that it's put us in between, right where we need to be. We're then going to chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, and then you're in the same spot you're gonna put in a double crochet. Now you're gonna come into the next space in between the 2 double crochets. Do you see those? That's the big chain 1 space, and you're gonna put 2 double crochets there too. An easy way to remember this, because it's not always easy to write it out, is essentially you are putting in 2 double crochet together in each of the spaces between the double crochets. And when you do that, it'll give you 16 groups of 2 double crochet. Noticing that I am not applying any chain 1 spaces at all. So just put in 2 double crochet in each one of these spaces in between. So you're not going right into a stitch, you're just going into a space. And I'll see you at the end of this round. So I'm just coming up into the last space before the spot where I joined, and you're just going to slip stitch then into the top of the first chain 3. Like so. So that's what it looks like. So I need you to still pay attention to the spacing in between the groups. So there's 1 group, there's the spacing in between 2 groups, there's another group. Do you see that? So you want to pay attention for that because we need to grow one more time in order for us to keep on moving on this pattern, but the growth in the next one is a little confusing, and that's why people were complaining on the very first tutorial because I wasn't that clear. So let's begin to do the next round. So let's begin the round number 4. This is the last time it'll grow out for the width of it, but we just need to pay attention because then we just have to grow up from this part, like just keep adding more rounds. So round number 4, let's begin. We're gonna slip stitch in between the space between the double crochet. So do you see that there's this here? It's sharing the same one. We're just gonna go right into the space in between, and that's where we're gonna start. So it's just basically the next space in between. We're going to chain 3, which will count as a double crochet, and in that same space we want a double crochet. Now we want to come into the next space between the two groups. So here's one group, here's another. See how they're sharing the same base, and you want to put in 2 double crochets into that space. And now we're going to then begin to do the repeat pattern. So it says double crochet, 2 double crochet in the space between the next 2 double crochets. So it's 2 double crochet in the next space, noticing that it's not in the space between the groups. That's the difference, and that's where people are getting messed up on. So we're just gonna come in right into the next space between the 2 double crochet, and then it says 2 double crochet in the next space between 2 groups 5 times. So the next 5 spaces in between these groups is what we're going to pay attention to. So as I count them, I'm gonna count to 5. So come in the space between the 2 groups and put in 2 double crochet each. So we're gonna put 1 group of 2, so that's 1. Come into the next space between the next 2 groups. This is 2. Come in the next space between the next 2 groups. This is 3. Come in the next space between the next 2 groups. This is 4. Come in the next space between the next 2 groups, and that's 5. So now that's the end of the repeat pattern, and we have to do it one more time and then do something at the end in order to have the balance. So we're gonna repeat going back to the asterisk, and it says 2 double crochet in the space between the next 2 double crochet. So noticing it's not the next 2 groups, it's just in the next space. That's where we're gonna start. And then it states 2 double crochet in the next space between the next 2 groups 5 times. So this is the 2 groups, it's in the first space here. So we're gonna restart and say this is number 1. So 1 of 5. Come in the next space between the 2 groups. This is 2. Next space between the groups. This is 3. Next space between the groups. This is 4. Next space between the groups. This is 5. So we've just now repeated it once as it says, and now this is how you're going to finish the rest of this. So let's continue back to the pattern. It says 2 double crochet in the space between 2 double crochet. So it's not in between the groups, it's in the next one right in the middle. So that's your first one. And then 2 double crochet in the next space between the 2 groups 4 times. So coming into the next space between the 2 groups, so 1, and the next group, this is 2, the next group is 3, and the next group in between is 4. And when you get all the way there, it looks like it's wrong, but it's not. You're just going to slip stitch to the top of the chain 3, and that'll pull it all together, and there is the next round. So that was round number 4. Now rounds number 5 all the way to the end is all gonna be the same thing, and I'm gonna go through that, and then we're just gonna do one round of single crochet when we get all the way to the right height. So let's begin to do the 5th round, which is the same round for the rest of it. So we're now gonna start all the rest of the rounds, and everything is gonna be the same. So how we're gonna start, I will show you one more time after we get all the way around. The goal is that you want to play between the groups of 2. It's the space between the groups of 2. Now you'll notice that it kind of looks awkward in a little bit of places like that. That's because we had to get the right rounds, but once it starts expanding it'll make sense. So you need to slip stitch over, so go into the next space between the 2 double crochets and slip stitch, and then slip stitch in the top of that stitch, and then slip stitch in the space between the 2 groups. And that's how you're gonna start each round. So you essentially want to put 2 double crochet in the space between each grouping of 2. So let's start off. We're gonna chain 3 and double crochet into that same spot. Now come in between the next 2 groups and put in 2 double crochet. So you're gonna see this is gonna grow out a little bit further before it starts going down the sides. So in the next space in between, and I want you to do that all the way around. If your counts are right, there should be 19 groups of 2 double crochets when you get all the way around. So please go all the way around just between the groups, and then I'll see you back here in just a moment. So I'm just coming up all the way around. I'm just going in between the 2 groups of the 2 double crochet, and then as soon as I've got that done, I'm going to slip stitch to the top of the first chain 3. So now we're just gonna continue along. So in order to go to the next spot, we have to get in between the 2 groups. So we have to slip stitch over through the space, through the stitch, and then in between the 2 groups, and that's where we're gonna start again. So that's how you're gonna start each of these rounds as you go. So chain up 3, and then again putting in 2 double crochet in between the 2 groups of 2 double crochets that you have. This is gonna expand a little bit more, and then start crawling down the side of the head as you're playing along. So our goal is to continue to do this until the top of the hat to the brim line measures 4.5 inches. So once you fold it like so, you'll be able to take your tape measure, and it has to be 4.5 inches to go down. So you have to be all the way down here in order to get there, and it doesn't take long, but that's where you need to be. So continue to go around and around until you have 4.5 inches, and then meet me back here and we'll do one more final round together, which will conclude this hat. So now I've just got, and it's now 4.5 inches from the top all the way to where I am right now. So to finish off this one, all you just need to do is chain 1, and you just have to put 1 single crochet in each of the stitches going all the way around. So don't worry about the gapping spaces in between, just put in 1 single crochet in each stitch, and then that's it. So do that all the way around. I'll show you how to finish off, and I'll be right back. When you get all the way back around, you were just single crocheting in each one of the stitches, and then just slip stitch to the top of the first single crochet and pull through and through. But you're not quite done. We want to secure this because it is for a baby. You want to take your tapestry needle, so cut your yarn and just pull through and pull tight. Take your yarn with the tapestry needle and feed it through. If you weave it in and out with your hook, it will fall out, trust me. So now all you're just gonna do from the inside of the hat, just take it and just glide it through. The needle that I'm using here on camera is considered a leather needle. You'll find it in the leather craft section of the craft store. So pulling it through, so just go through once, stay on the inside of the hat, go through a second time, and then a third time. And the reason why I use this needle is that it separates the plies really good. If it can go through leather, it can really do that. And once you go back and forth 3 times, that's it, you're done, and then your hat is good to go. And this will be how you do the newborn size, and it looks amazing any which way you turn it. That's it for today. Have a good one, and we hope to see you again real soon. Bye bye.